amazing. Someone see someone I wish I could see.
The man you just saw is Kevin Eastman, who would go on to give the most terrible acting performance in the interrogation room. Or was Kevin just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time?
On February 16, 2020, he was arrested at a gas station in Kersey, Colorado, while fleeing from an alleged crime. A crime scene that was considered to be one of the most chilling ever in Greeley, Colorado, had been found a few days prior. Kevin said that he was running from his longtime girlfriend, Heather Frank. However, when he was arrested, Heather Frank was conveniently missing. What followed next was a series of events that were filled with deception and unexpected twists. Interrogation rooms are known to be intimidating and can significantly impact individuals. With that in mind, do these clips show a man creating drama, or do they reveal someone overwhelmed by a situation? Let's hear from one of Kevin's friends, who revealed a detail that would turn out to be crucial in solving the case.
He would tell me that they both drank a lot, but he would tell me that she would keep drinking throughout the night, and she would get violent with him. Okay. They get into an argument and she'd hit on him.
Given the statement from Kevin's friend, do you think he was wrongfully arrested, or was he living a double life? Let's start from where it all began on Pingree Park Road. On February 10th, 2020, a snowplow operator in Pingree Park made a gruesome discovery and immediately called 911.
I'm on the Pingree Park Road at the Monument Gulch exit, and I have a dead body.
Okay, we'll get help on the way. Are you able to provide any details?
Well, there was a tree on fire, and I went up to put it out, and he's laying next to it.
Okay, and do you believe he's got any help?
Yeah, he's definitely passed away.
There's no indication that this guy was camping. There's no other personal property. He's face down next to a log. The tracks that we think might have been made by him or whoever was here.
11, I apologize. Sam 18's out of the room, confirming there was a campfire made, just doesn't look normal.
It does not look like this is an intentional campfire. So this does not look normal.
The scene was far from normal. The charred remains belonged to a man seemingly in their early 50s. There were several unanswered questions when the detective tried to uncover the reason this man's body was found burned and abandoned. As it would turn out, some chilling revelations would lead the investigation to Kevin. The detective begins questioning Kevin to understand his involvement in the case and his relationship with the crime he was arrested for. They start with basic, open-ended questions to encourage Kevin to share more information about himself. The detectives were in the interrogation room with Kevin on February 16, 2020. But how did they get there? 5 days prior to his arrest, a missing persons report was filed by 73-year-old Stanley Sessions on February 11, 2020. The report was for his 53-year-old son, Scott. As investigators painstakingly pieced together the clues, a trail of evidence began to emerge. Little did they know that DNA from a household item would unveil Scott's fate, while also leading them to the man now sitting nervously in the interrogation room. 5 days of relentless investigation exposed the victim's past and his chilling connection to this man. The burnt remains found in Pingree Park on February 10, 2020 were soon confirmed to belong to Scott Sessions. Scott was a dedicated musician in his early 50s. He played trumpet in a blues band and was very passionate about his career. He was loved and appreciated throughout his community for his remarkable talent and soulful music. Having a healthy career in music and supportive friends and family, Scott's life appeared something close to perfect.
This guy's been voted Northern Colorado's best trumpet player, Mr. Scott Sessions.
In a surveillance video, Scott is seen happily sharing the success of his band.
Scott! Hey! How are you? I got a first. Come on over. All right, thank you.
think I better put some money in the bank.
Working hard or hardly working?
Hardly working, really. We just got back from Memphis, so it's like, trying to recover. But we
Playing out there, or was it family?
Yeah, it was the International Blues Challenge.
Ooh.
So we made it to the semifinal round, and the band that from the semifinal round that was in our venue was the one that won it all. So we kind of basically lost to the winners. But it was so fun.
That's good. That is good.
Still on the Memphis high. It's great.
Scott's pride and happiness is evident in this footage. But he didn't know what fate had in store for him, and nothing would justify the gruesome nature of his murder. Scott had a gig scheduled for February 10th, 2022. It was highly unlikely that Scott would miss one of his gigs.
They had a candlelight dinner theater Monday night, and Scott didn't show up. George called and he said, "Do you have any idea where he might be?" And I said, "No, that's the first I knew that there was something."
Because Scott was very dependable.
Oh my God. Yes. He would not miss a gig with he would not. It was his life.
Okay.
And he had finally succeeded.
His passion for music was well known to his friends and family, and his absence at such an event sparked concern. Stanley Sessions then reported him missing on February 11th, 2022, unaware that his son's body had already been found just the day before in Pingree Park. When the detectives responded to the 911 call, they found a body that had been deliberately burned, wrapped in plastic, and tightly bound with duct tape. The autopsy revealed a horrific detail. Scott's throat had been slit with such force that it nearly decapitated him. Detectives realized that this was an act driven by pure rage. But why had Scott met with such a grim end? All he had in his mind was meeting Heather and having a quiet and comfortable evening. What the detectives were about to uncover would change the course of their investigation forever. To gain a better understanding of Scott's background and potential reasons for his death, detectives began questioning Stanley Sessions. They inquired about his son's nature and, in particular, his love life.
He had a hell of a track record there. He was married many, many years ago, and that ended up in divorce, and collected a felony out of that.
It turns out that after his failed marriage, Scott had 2 subsequent relationships, neither of which worked out due to his own actions. Both of his ex-girlfriends were questioned, and their responses gave detectives a clear understanding of Scott's character.
So during that relationship, you had indicated that there were some troubles and stuff like that?
In our relationship?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain what those were?
He became very jealous. And that was difficult because I'd be out with friends, and if a man came up to talk to me, he would get upset. And then eventually, he would get really angry. So I decided for my own safety and well-being, I filed a restraining order. And that was for 3 months.
Scott's temper often got in the way of his intentions, hinting at deeper unresolved issues. Yet after years of self-reflection and growth, he managed to repair his relationships with both women. In fact, in the last few years, he'd been able to maintain friendly terms with Loretta and Laura, who praised him and his unwavering passion for music. But there was another side of Scott that those close to him were always concerned about.
Scott struggled in a lot of ways, but he was amazing too, right? He was brilliant mind with music, and the ability to deal with people. He never forgot anybody's name, as you've read. He was nice to everybody, nice all the time. He never really had a reason to be mean to anybody until you pissed him off, right? Then it was another story. Always road rage. I hated driving with him. I used to say, Scott, people carry guns. Don't do that. Don't follow so close. Don't drive like that. I was always, so in this whole last few days, I thought maybe it was a road rage incident. Maybe he'd gone up to the mountains and something happened, so I thought, that's a possibility. In my mind, it's not just, it wasn't there's no way a random event took out Scott Sessions. I just don't think it. He made it 53 years. He's done. Crack, he's done. Meth, he's done. Scott's done everything. I don't think he's done one. But Scott, you don't know how he survives because he makes dumb decisions constantly. So I didn't think it would be a random act that takes him out, right? And I know that sounds kind of harsh to say take him out, but you think about it when you're around someone like that, when they risk themselves a lot.
Sure.
It wasn't just Scott's ex-girlfriend who pointed out Scott's recklessness. This made the detective wonder whether Scott had ventured somewhere he shouldn't have.
He was always a little kid, and he was always picked on himself. Well, he'd been in counseling since, off and on, all the way from second grade. And along the way, there's been some stuff. I've seen inside of jails I never ever expected to see. I met law enforcement people up and down the Front Range, and one gathered him up a few times from jail, but it looked like he had really turned the page. And I tell you all of this because in my reaction to your telling me he was deceased was I wasn't surprised very much, because I think we had been close to this place times before, years and years ago.
Sure.
So I didn't know. I didn't react because I guess for 50 years I've been conditioned that something could go wrong.
Detectives searched Scott's home for clues to identify a motive or the killer. They analyzed his cell phone data to determine his last location. Initially, it yielded no leads. The breakthrough came when they accessed his Facebook Messenger account using passwords found at his home. Scott's final chat on the day he went missing was with a woman named Heather Frank. Heather was one of the primary suspects from the beginning. But to know where it all started, the detective dug in deeper and found out that it was at one of his shows where he met the free-spirited and charming Heather Frank. Heather was 48 years old when she met Scott. Heather Frank, a local waitress, was someone Scott had recently met and felt an instant connection. Thus, they started seeing each other casually. Heather was a mother of 3 boys and longed for a healthy companionship. On February 8th, Heather had texted Scott on Facebook Messenger and invited him over to her place. It was a fun conversation, and Scott had responded to her invitation with equal enthusiasm. According to their texts, Scott had gone over to Heather's home for a quiet and comfortable evening. But when Kevin was asked about Scott and Heather, he had a contradictory revelation.
So anyway, they came out that she had intimate relations with him.
Okay.
And that it wasn't like really... Oh, man. I'm trying to think of the right words, but...
Whatever claims Kevin made, it was clear at this point that something happened that night. It was the last time Scott spoke to his father, and it was the last time he was seen. Scott vanished that night without a trace, and his last communication had been with Heather, hinting at grim possibilities. Considering the Facebook chat, it seemed likely that Scott was at Heather's place. Tracing his phone, detectives got confirmation that it was indeed at Heather's. Police obtained cell phone records for Heather, and while doing so, they traced another cell phone to the same house. Guess whose cell phone it was? The same man sitting in the interrogation room, Kevin Eastman.
I went over to the house because I know that she gets too drunk, and I don't want her to lose her job.
Okay.
And I'm sure her car won't start if she's been drinking past a certain time, past 8 p.m. If she drinks past 8, she knows her car won't start. Then I've been with her on the phone in the past, and it's just easier to just go over there and make sure she's up and give her a ride.
And then you dry heaved a couple times in the sink.
Yeah, like 20.
Okay. So what room?
She was all fucking, I don't know what you call it.
You need a trash can?
Kevin and Heather had had an on and off relationship for 5 years. At the time of the incident, Kevin was supposed to be at his sister's place in Parachute, as Heather and him had broken up a few months ago, and Kevin was trying to move on once and for all. However, cell tower data confirmed Kevin and Heather had been with Scott in Heather's apartment on the night of February 8th, 2022. The next morning, when Scott's phone went silent, Heather and Kevin's phones traveled together towards Poudre Canyon in Pingree Park, where Scott's body was later discovered. Security cameras outside an amphitheater captured Eastman's car heading west up the canyon and returning within a 3-hour window. Cell phone data also indicated that Kevin and Heather returned to her apartment after leaving the canyon. This significant development occurred when detectives issued warrants for the arrest of Heather Frank and Kevin Eastman. To gather further evidence, investigators tracked their movements using vehicle-mounted GPS devices and placed a surveillance camera outside Heather's residence. On the evening of February 15th, Heather exited her apartment with Kevin close behind. She appeared unsteady as she entered the passenger seat of Kevin's car. As detectives prepared to arrest the couple, they tracked Kevin's vehicle across rural Colorado and saw it making several stops. Larimer County Lieutenant Donnie Robbins, who was monitoring Kevin's activities, suspected he might be disposing of crucial evidence. Robbins observed Kevin tending a large fire on the property belonging to a man named Troy Bonnell. Upon Kevin's arrival at a nearby gas station, he was promptly arrested, but Heather was nowhere to be found. However, investigators couldn't rule out the possibility that he dropped Heather off at one of the stops he made along the way. In the first hour of the interrogation, Kevin Eastman is asked about his lifestyle, his recent whereabouts, and his relationship with Heather Frank. Kevin conveniently puts forward a narrative that he cannot remember many things about his life due to an injury.
But I suffer multiple different. My head's kind of all screwed up, so I had a crush. So, yeah, my memory's not always what it should be. But I think I'm usually pretty adamant about taking care of stuff like that.
So that case involved a young lady, and we wanted to talk to you about that. Okay, but before we get into that case down in Denver, I want to talk to you about you, find out more about you, because I don't really know much about you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
So, where do you live right
now? I'm kind of in between 3 places.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to see how much backstory. So, like, a year ago on Valentine's Day, the lady that I'd been with went through hell and back, treating each other bad and good. And
he recalls his relationship with Heather as rough. He's able to mention a specific date from the past year, which he surprisingly remembers despite the alleged issue he faces with his memory. Let's find other instances like this from the interrogation. It's important to note here that detectives know far more about Kevin and his actions than he would ever want to reveal.
Hey Kevin, there's something else we know too.
Okay.
Saturday night, you, Heather, and Scott were all at Heather's house. We know that. Okay, so why don't you walk us through what happened?
Tell us what happened with Scott.
On Saturday night?
Yeah. Here's the thing, Kevin. I think that you want to tell me, all right, and you're struggling with getting over a speed bump. We already know that you were there with Scott at Heather's house. Saturday night, the 8th, at 7 o'clock, between 6 and 7 is when Scott got there, okay? You remember when I told you about they were having communications with each other? We know that you were there, that Heather was there, and that Scott was there, all right? This is not something that we can dispute, all right? And so what my purpose is right now is to help you get over that speed bump, okay? Because I know that you want to tell me what happened.
I think it was like before when she told me she had a date and she asked me to leave.
Okay.
And that's when I pawned her my phone for $100.
Okay.
Okay. Tell us about being there with Scott.
Yeah. We know that you were there.
I don't remember anything.
Here's the thing,
Kevin. Dude named Scott.
Kevin repeatedly denies meeting Scott on the evening of February 8th, 2022, even though the detectives present evidence placing both him and Heather at the scene that night. He insists that he cannot remember. However, his story begins to unravel when he makes some conflicting claims about his feelings toward Heather. The detectives have evidence suggesting otherwise. Watch how they unmask him step by step.
You told us that you proposed to her. I mean, you feel very deeply for this woman.
I love her with all my heart.
I get that. And what you're telling us, there is no doubt that you love her more than anything. And loving a woman more than anything in this world. And, you know, it doesn't sound like she's toying with you, but intentionally, but for her
it's not intentional.
But for her to go out and you know that she had intimate relations with Scott, that's like a, you know, not only sticking something in your chest, but it's twisting it too. I can imagine you feel pretty awful.
I'm pretty callous to it from all the years that it's been going on.
Well, you say you might be callous to it, but there's still something though that, if not, you know, making you feel bad, your pride. Okay.
Oh no, Scott, and I feel pride just my self-worth. It just makes me feel like, yeah, I try and be everything I can, and I still don't mean nothing to her.
So I'm sure that you do. Okay. So you're at this house with Heather, with Scott, the guy that you know she has slept with.
That would be awkward.
That would be very awkward. Tell us what happened there. I mean, you're with your person you proposed to a week later.
Right.
And Scott's there.
I don't even remember anybody named Scott.
Kevin claims to love Heather with all his heart, but his actions paint a different picture. The detectives have compelling evidence that exposes the contradictions in his claims, suggesting that Kevin is not the man he's portraying himself to be.
Amazing grace. I see the moon sees someone I wish I could see. Frère Jacques, Frère Marjon, Très Marjon. Give me back the clicker.
She could be black and blue. And you have to understand, her and Kevin were together for a really long time. Their relationship was really good, and then it started getting crazy. Just some of the things that she would tell me is he wasn't. He was very physical. If they drank together, it would get extremely physical. So she started going to therapy. They both wanted to do couples therapy. That wasn't working. So, you know, she would tell me that she would want to break up with him, but she was afraid that he wouldn't take it well.
Allie Noby is an old friend of Heather's. She was the manager of the restaurant where Heather worked as a waitress for years. She'd opened up to Allie multiple times about her tumultuous relationship with Kevin. When detectives were conducting the background check into Kevin and Heather, Allie had more to say about their disturbing equation. Heather was clearly in an abusive relationship, but it wasn't just Allie who spoke up.
Things got rocky. There was a couple times where she couldn't come to work, and she'd show up, and I'd meet her outside.
Alexander McLaughlin, Heather's eldest son, also came forward with shocking revelations that helped the detectives understand the dynamic between Heather and Kevin better.
Tell me about your mom and Kevin's relationship.
Wild, I guess I would say. Like, in the beginning, when they first met, he's an alcoholic. My mom is pretty much an alcoholic too. They would get into a lot of fights. The first incident of him ever hurting her, he broke her wrist and tried to slit her throat. She told me it was a bar fight, but this was back in 2014, so 5-6 years ago.
And when you say he tried to slice her throat, how do you know that?
Because her throat had a scar, or not a scar, it was scabbed over, like he tried to cut her throat with a dull knife.
This wasn't the only time Kevin was violent with Heather. He repeatedly caused physical trauma to her. This time, it was a broken wrist and a scar on her throat. A couple of years later, it went a step further when Heather was hospitalized.
Okay, we'll turn the lights on. I just got assigned this call. Want to tell me what happened?
Just argument in the hotel room. Punches to the left side of my ribs. And I had to get out of there because it was going to hurt me worse. So I left.
Who did this to you?
Kevin Eastman.
How many times did he punch you?
3 times. Just like, get away. Like he always does. This is the first time he's done this to me.
Kevin isn't the man he's pretending to be in the interrogation room, and the detectives see right through him thanks to the background details they've gathered. However, there are still clouds that shroud Heather's involvement in this case. While Kevin tries to act like the most caring partner, the detectives swiftly dismantle his deception. They've already pinpointed his triggers and will now use these to push his buttons. Watch as Kevin's facade begins to crack under their mounting pressure.
I know you guys are probably tired and frustrated, and I'm sorry I can't answer your questions any better, but could we possibly, to help jog my memory, I know you don't believe that I can't remember.
Kevin says, I am never the victim. Kevin is absolutely right in saying this. However, his response only highlights how shaken and uncomfortable he is with the idea of Heather being with someone else. From here on, the detective attempts to hit every possible button to trigger Kevin in order to unmask this monster for better.
Where's Heather?
What?
Where's Heather?
She's probably at work.
She's not at work.
She's
not home. And her car's home.
And we're at her house. Okay?
Run that by me again?
Where is Heather?
I thought she'd be at work.
She's not there. Okay.
And you're saying her car's at your house?
Remember?
She could be with Mike. I mean...
But you were there last night. You were at her house last night.
I was at her house yesterday afternoon. We spent the whole day together. And then, like I said, she got mad. She's disappeared with Mike for a couple of days before. She almost lost her job over it once.
The detective confronts Kevin about Heather's whereabouts. His carefree answers speak volumes. His responses may seem calm and genuine, but by now it has been established that Kevin is anything but honest. The truth is still in the dark, but detectives will soon bring it to light.
I can tell you where we sat. I remember that. I remember where we sat. I remember the waitress she hadn't been there very long. Oh gosh, man, we were really there, guys. We were really there. I can tell you that Heather spent $70 on a 6-pack. No, it would have been $70. When she went upstairs to the liquor store, there should be proof of her credit card receipt. Because I think we paid cash for the breakfast. I don't know. We were really there. We really ate.
Okay, so you were at the Glen Echo. You're saying that you were there. Okay, but either before Glen Echo or after Glen Echo, you took a drive up to Pingree Park. Okay, you went up in the mountains and you were checking Forest Service Road gates. And you guys drove up there. Okay?
I think Heather was sick.
Okay. And you guys got up there and what did you guys do?
And she wanted to go up to the mountains. And that made her feel better, so then we thought we'd try and eat.
Okay. And you guys drove up there and what did you do? You guys parked.
I just remember going to Glen Echo.
Kevin,
okay.
Are you covering for Heather?
Heather do something?
Was Heather defending herself against this guy? You went over there, she freaked out, there was a mess, and being the devoted partner you are to her,
you helped her, didn't you?
You cleaned up Heather's mess.
It's okay.
Well, I know that I should love her a lot. And now you guys got me worried because she didn't go to work today.
Kevin, let's talk about this weekend. We're not talking about today. Okay. You guys went up to the Poudre Canyon. You went up to Pingree Park. You went up there to drop Scott off. Okay? Because something happened between her and Heather, and you went to help her out because you are devoted to her. You will do anything to help her when she's in a jam. She doesn't respect you, but you will respect her. You will do anything to help her get out of a mess, right?
I love her a lot.
You do.
She loves me.
And you will love her to the point where you will help her do this. Kevin, what happened?
You're saying that this...
We're saying that you were there, and we know that you were there, and you helped her get out of this.
It looks like the detectives are quite close to a confession. It's clear as day to the detectives that Heather did something accidentally to Scott, and that Kevin then volunteered to get rid of him. But as mentioned before, the truth is still shrouded in darkness. It's just a matter of time before the detectives will uncover these chilling details.
So I came back over here, and I was living at Troy's, where I work, and then sometimes I stay at Heather's house.
So where does Troy work at?
He owns Bonnell Trucking.
Bonnell Trucking? Mm-hmm. Okay, where's that at?
It's in Greeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've been living at Bonnell Trucking in the shop?
Yeah, well, actually, his house is right next to the shop, okay. And he gave me a room in the basement. He said $500 a week and free room and board, okay. And then he'll pay me more as things progress better because he's getting ready to sell a part of his property.
Okay.
Let's backtrack a bit. At the start of the interrogation, Kevin claimed he worked under Troy Bonnell on a permanent basis. However, when Troy Bonnell was brought in for questioning, he denies any such arrangement. He confirms that Kevin only occasionally came and worked for him. As Troy speaks to the detectives, a team of law enforcement officers is busy searching his property.
After the breakup and Heather and I moving out and everything else, or me moving out from Heather just as a self-preservation tactic, it didn't work out very well because I still just self-destructed. But my sister seen me, she saved me, and she got me over there. She's like, yeah, gym membership and trauma therapist and the doctor for your meds. And she got me all on all that, like right away. She got me on Medicaid too. So it's like, well, I lost my insurance from work. I can't afford to go see a psychiatrist.
Your sister seems like a very nice lady.
She's absolutely awesome. She's
taking care of you.
Yeah, and she's taking care of 3 autistic grandchildren. Yeah, and her husband who's starting early stages dementia.
Sure. So, so you said 8 to 9 days ago, you were at your sister's.
Yeah.
And then you drove from Parachute to, I'm assuming the Greeley area, because we haven't talked about any other areas except for Greeley.
Yeah. I came over. I was really stressed out about the money and the finances and all that, and so then even, my meds and everything I drank. And my sister locked me up, changed the code on the door because she's got zero tolerance for that.
While Troy's property is being searched, Kevin continues to be questioned. The detective who arrested Kevin on February 16, 2022, had seen him burning something on Troy's property the day before, and suspected it could be evidence linking him to Scott's murder. Determined to uncover the truth, they left no stone unturned. Then the detectives discovered something completely unexpected.
So here's the thing. I know it feels like I've been stalling for time here, and I have a little bit. Because sometimes I get information that I'm not allowed to share, and I gotta wait until they let me share it.
Okay.
So when they were doing the search warrant at your property, they did find a body.
What?
Yes, sir. And
Where?
I'm not sure. Obviously, I wasn't there. I've been here with you, but they that they found a body on your property. They believe it's a female, so obviously you know what we're thinking. That it's Heather, so that's like
Jesus fucking Christ!
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that shit?
I only heard about 2 breaks ago, and then I had to get my boss to authorize me to tell you.
I mean, you.
So that's just, you've been so patient with us, and I wanted to explain to you why this is extending, right?
Yeah, but I got nothing to do with this shit. I mean, I'm in the fucking, I'm just motherfucker, man.
I could see if I was in your position, I'd be pissed too.
I don't deserve this shit.
I'm sure, kind of like you're beyond tired.
Yeah.
But hopefully that helps you to understand why I need your help. And
I'm telling you. With me. God damn, bro.
Yeah. So.
Where?
I
know my property pretty well.
I can work on finding out a little more information on that outside somewhere. Beyond that, like I say, I literally don't know. I get little snippets of information, quick phone calls with the boss when I'm out of the room, right? So remember I said,
on my property.
Me. Yeah. Yes, sir. So let's.
Dude, I fucking.
So you know nothing about it?
No.
Okay. And I have no reason not to believe you.
Troy's reaction is obvious. He seems to be genuinely oblivious to the things Kevin did on his property. Kevin's reaction when he is spoken to about this incident is very disturbing.
We told you we have new developments.
She gets in the front seat of your car. You put something in the back seat. You get in the car. She doesn't get out. No, hold on a second. We're watching this real quick, okay?
Well, I was just going to show you.
Hold on a second. No, we're watching this. Okay, that's your car. And you drive away. And you want to know what this tells us? What we know is that you drove away with Heather last night and she never returned to your house, or to her house. And that we had a tracker on your car and we tracked you going out to the house out in Weld County, the farm where the barn is, where the burn pit is, that you were tending to this morning.
Right.
Okay? And we found Heather. And Heather is in the same condition that Scott is.
It's time to start talking.
This is the time that you need to talk. If you're not going to tell us the truth, then this conversation is over. Okay? So this is your chance, Kevin. Look at me. This is your chance. There's another new development. Troy, who was out at the farm this morning, is currently in contact with Weld County Sheriff's Office investigators, and he is talking. This is your chance to get in front of what he's saying. Kevin, look at me. Kevin, we need to start talking. You need to start telling us something. We can't keep going round and round with lies and stuff that's not true.
Right.
So start telling us the truth about what happened. What's Troy going to tell the Weld County investigators? Because if Troy talks and you don't, where does that go?
Was somebody else in the car with you and Heather when you went up to dump Scott's body?
Troy's going to tell us what happened. Troy's going to tell us everything that happened. This is your chance, Kevin.
Tell us what happened the night Scott was killed.
Let's start there. No more games, Kevin. Tell us what happened. It's okay. Tell us. You can tell us. Troy's gonna start talking.
That's okay. You guys go talk to him. He probably knows more than I do.
He what?
He probably doesn't know anything. I don't know, guys.
All right, Kevin. Heather's dead. You know she's dead. Scott's dead.
Based on the circumstantial evidence, Kevin Dean Eastman was arrested on February 16, 2022, after 6 long hours of interrogation and investigation. Detectives were able to acquire physical evidence and testimonials that pointed towards Kevin. Most of this evidence was circumstantial. However, Kevin made a few calls to his sister Shelley during his stay at Weld County North Jail while he awaited his trial. These call records would prove to be crucial later.
Yeah, I don't think they really got anything for evidence.
No, it's very circumstantial. And the way I've looked at it, if I were sitting on a jury, I would have a hard time convicting someone in a case like yours because it's just circumstantial evidence. So I'm going to be a very unpopular witness because I am very anti-Heather.
Kevin and Shelley blamed Heather for Kevin's arrest. It's easy to accuse someone who's no longer alive to defend themselves. If Heather were still alive, many questions could have been answered, but there were more such records that detectives found.
But, I wanted to tell you something weird that I found.
All right.
Do you know how in Weld County that search the jail log?
Right.
And I see a bunch for Troy.
Oh, yeah.
He was picked up on charges of lying to the police. He got arrested for it. That one's just a couple months ago, 2 months ago. And it was lying to the authorities was what he was picked up for.
He's just loud and pushy, doesn't really take anybody else's consideration. Pretty close to a narcissist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you could tell. So I know Troy's got quite a criminal history.
Yeah, and Troy, he's just a big lug nut. He's a mess, man.
Oh, yeah.
The next obvious target was Troy. Initially, detectives suspected Troy's involvement with Kevin, but a gunshot residue test confirmed he had no connection to Heather and Scott's murders. Despite this, the detectives found through call records that Shelley was trying to shift the blame from her brother to Troy. In fact, the siblings were planning something shrewd.
Sounds like they're gonna try and put it out far enough that the attorneys will just end up just getting tired, of just waiting, and then we can offer them a deal.
As Kevin and Shelley tried to avoid a jury trial, detectives combed through Troy's garage and his property to find something that would implicate Kevin as the sole responsible person for Scott and Heather's deaths. Fortunately, they were able to find a pair of trousers that had bloodstains on them. After running a DNA test, it was confirmed that the bloodstains were indeed from Scott Sessions. This was the final piece of evidence that was used in the trial. Kevin Eastman's conviction in the double homicide of Scott Sessions and Heather Frank was backed by an overwhelming amount of physical evidence presented to the jury during the 3-week trial. It was revealed that Kevin had a clear motive, eliminating Scott Sessions to remove his competition. Consumed by his obsession to be the only man in Heather Frank's life, Kevin attacked Scott when he entered Heather's property on February 8, 2020. Later, he killed Heather to silence the witness to his first murder. On July 20th, 2022, Kevin was sentenced to 2 life terms, plus an additional 27 years. He is currently serving his sentence at the Fremont Correctional Facility.
So the court has considered the verdicts of the jury. The court has considered the statements that were made by family members and friends today. Listening to everybody, what comes to mind immediately is that there were 2 direct victims in this case, but there were dozens of indirect victims of the loss of these 2 lives, as demonstrated by many of your statements today. So to say there was 2 victims is certainly an understatement. There were dozens of victims based on the actions of Mr. Eastman. I also don't want to have the focus on what this court has to say because I don't want to minimize what the victims and family and friends have said today, but what I will say, Mr. Eastman, is that you are going to spend the rest of your natural life in prison based on your vicious acts of violence, jealousy, and control, and the taking of 2 precious lives, and thereafter disposing of their deceased bodies in such a disrespectful manner. That's why you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison.
The tragic tale of Scott Sessions and Heather Frank's murders serves as a chilling reminder of the lengths to which obsession can drive a person. Kevin Eastman's story, marked by jealousy and a desperate need for control, ended with a heavy price. 2 lives lost and his own future confined within prison walls. As we reflect on this case, we're left pondering the devastating impact of unchecked emotions and the dark paths they can lead us down. What other lives could have been saved if warning signs were heeded sooner? And how can one prevent such tragedies from unfolding in their own communities? The search for these answers continues as we strive to learn from the shadows of this haunting narrative. Add your thoughts on this case in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more such content.